Hi everyone, it's Brian, and I'm just giving a quick update on how my fast is going. I'm coming up on 80 hours of not eating any food at all. Just been drinking water, that's it. And I actually feel pretty decent. One of the surprising things is how much energy I've had, especially in the morning. Like I've been waking up the last couple days between 4 and 5 a.m. and just wide awake, not fatigued. Yesterday afternoon, I did feel a little bit foggy, kind of like you're up maybe an hour past your bedtime after going to a hot yoga class, but I exerted myself a little bit more than maybe they'd recommend on a water fast, so I kind of expected that. My blood glucose is staying pretty steady at about 3.3. And blood pressure and temperature and everything else is pretty normal as well. So as far as any negative side effects, very little. Just the occasional fogginess if I get up too quickly, maybe a little lightheadedness, which isn't a very big deal. So I just wanted to explain a few of the reasons why I wanted to do water fast, because it seems kind of crazy to a lot of people that maybe don't know much about fasting. So the number one reason and benefit for water fasting is to activate autophagy. So autophagy is a natural process that occurs in our body when resources are scarce, and it targets poorly functioning and abnormal cells in our body and basically cannibalizes them and recycles all the materials from those cells to keep your body running nice and smoothly. So most people never enter or activate autophagy to a great extent because we're in a constantly fed state, and that's how a lot of things like cancer, metabolic diseases, cardiovascular diseases can get started, is just with some abnormal cells or some poorly functioning cells that stick around too long and start to aggregate and cause more problems. So activating autophagy every once in a while, so it's only necessary every few months. It helps clean up all the garbage in your body, kind of like a cleanse, but it's not quite the same as doing like a juice cleanse or anything like that, where you're still getting plenty of nutrients. So autophagy is the number one benefit that I'm looking for in doing this fast. Second to that is increasing my fat adaptation, so allowing my body to get used to using fat more efficiently. So the same thing can be done using a ketogenic diet, but there's a lot more side effects to eating a high-fat diet, which could go off down the rabbit hole and go into that, but I'm going to try and keep it short for today. So basically, fasting has all the benefits of the ketogenic diet, if not much better outcomes, with many less of the risks. So trying to increase my fat efficiency while I gear up for some long run training in the next few months. It just helps smooth out that bump when you run out of glycogen and start depending a lot more on fat for fuel. A couple other reasons I like to do a fast every once in a while, so this is only something I do maybe once or twice a year at most, is to just realign my relationship with food. So we all have kind of an emotional relationship with food in one way or another, and for me it's portion control and overeating. So doing intermittent fasting on a regular basis helps me maintain that, as well as constraining myself to a primarily plant-based diet. So it takes a lot of the willpower out of making the decisions of whether or not to have that snack. So I find that it's very beneficial for me to just do this every once in a while, so that when I come back to food, I have a healthier relationship to it. One of the criticisms of longer fasts is that it could develop an eating disorder, which I think I have a pretty healthy relationship with my body image, and I'm definitely no stranger to food when it's available. So I think just practicing this once a year helps me keep that in check, make sure that I am eating food that's good for me and not just kind of mindlessly stuffing my face. Then another reason is just to show that it's possible to go several days without eating. In our culture, we've been marketed to by the food companies and other corporate interests that we need to eat all the time, or we need to eat several times a day, so 3-4 meals a day with snacks in between, because we don't want our energy levels to drop. So people are used to eating when food is around, and then when food is scarce, going for sometimes days, even weeks, without food throughout history. So our genes have carried on all these adaptations through history to enable us to withstand that, and autophagy is a really great example. So I hope that's informative, answers some questions, lets some people that might be wondering if I'm like in bed, just barely able to move, that it reassures that I'm okay. As soon as your ketones kind of kick in and you start utilizing your stored fat for energy, you actually have an upsurge of energy. And one of the criticisms from a muscle mass point of view is that fasting will lead to a loss of lean muscle, which is actually the opposite of what the evidence shows in most studies. So what actually happens when you're in a fully fasted state and not just reducing calories is that you have a increase in human growth hormone, which serves to protect your lean muscle mass and your organ tissue, and it targets the poorly functioning or abnormal cells, and focuses on just utilizing fat stores. So the first day I had a good drop of weight, about 5 pounds, 5 and a bit pounds, which is normal. Probably 4 or 5 pounds is lost just to depleting my glycogen stores and the water that is held with that glycogen. So that's about 4 or 5 pounds, and then maybe another half a pound to a pound worth of fat and possibly water. The last couple days I've only lost about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds a day, which is pretty reasonable during this type of fast, and I've got 2 more days to go, so probably lose maybe 4 or 5 pounds more at most, and then as soon as I break my fast, I'll probably gain at least about 5 pounds of that right back right away, because that wasn't fat. So, but fat loss isn't really my main goal for this fast, so that's just kind of one of the side effects. But if you are trying to do this for weight loss, it is much more effective because of the autophagy. You actually, if you have a lot of weight to lose, there's studies that show that there's less excess skin after losing a significant amount of weight using fasting rather than just calorie restriction, because of the autophagy, and it consumes that tissue and brings back some of the more of the elasticity in the tissue. so you don't have all that excess skin afterwards. So that's just a little side note that I learned from my buddy Josh Lajani via the Rich Roll podcast. So anyway, I'll end it at that. I'll give another update probably near the end of the fast and after it's done to kind of share the results, how it went, what I've kind of gone through. And so yeah, that's it for now, and I'll check in again in a couple more days.